Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S. Finally back you with another video. I've been a bit tired and demotivated, to be honest, so that's one of the reasons why, for by my usual standards, it's taken me quite a while to get back to making YouTube videos, because I know and Facebook videos, because I know normally I upload quite regularly, but I was worrying whether people actually enjoy the content, so it took me a while to motivate myself. And also I've just been sleeping quite a lot and procrastinating, I suppose, so I haven't really got much done, unfortunately. But anyway, technically it's the 24th here now in the UK, but I didn't get around to discussing what I wanted to do on Thursday. So before I go to sleep, I'm hoping to discuss, before I watch some TV and then go to sleep, I was hoping to discuss like my ideas. So the number 23 makes me think of like philanthropy, fundraising, sympathy, empathy, compassion, and that kind of thing. So and also Thursday I think of politics, because here in the UK there's a political show called Question Time, so which comes on a Thursday night. So that's why I think that's why I think of Thursday as like politics as well as goal setting. But anyway, here are some of my ideas and thoughts, which are not so much in list form as I normally do them in, also not in like where I do parts 1, 2, and 3, or try and get around to those. It's just I suppose there probably will be a list of my thoughts, but not in the usual style that I normally do. But anyway, I hope I'm not waffling too much. But yeah, so the number 23 for some reason makes me think of and reminds me of like fundraising, philanthropy, sympathy, and stuff like that. But I want to start with a selfish dream of mine, which is to raise as much money as possible for Italian football, so to benefit Italian football as much as possible at club and country level. As I often say, I'd love to fundraise as much as possible to have like spaces and places for sport, in this case football, for Italy, and I'd also love to bring together all those involved in Italian football, like the Italian FA, the FIGC, which is the Italian FA, Serie A, and all those other, and the lower leagues, and all those involved in Italian football at all levels, including grassroots or whatnot level, like park football and things like that. Basically, grassroots as well, to sort of connect together. In fact, I would love to connect all of Italian society together through football, including sorry, how can I put it? Including involving and including migrants, refugees, and other minorities, neurodiverse people and whatnot, into Italian society through football, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I suppose sometimes I say places and spaces for playing, so to get Italians to have opportunities to play football. So basically as much money as possible for Italian football, so that Serie A teams can buy the best possible players, but also invest in youth development, which I think would be really cool for Italian football in the future. So in the future, I hope that investment will be used and help Italian football to be as successful as possible on the pitch. Most importantly, I suppose, winning as many trophies as possible at club and country level, and hopefully Italian football can also like fundraise for and donate to good causes. Like one of the things I thought would be pretty cool is if they abolish financial aid, FFP. Sorry for those who don't know much about football, but I would love for them to abolish FFP, and that would actually benefit, if Italian football get this investment, it would benefit Italian football, because they'd be able to spend it without those restrictions, legal restrictions and things like that, and taking risks, and they wouldn't have to risk like getting fined or points reductions or things like that. But I think if instead there should be like, if clubs give 10% of whatever they get to charity, I think they should be able to legally bypass financial fair play. And also like maybe if a club has so much money, whatever prize money it gets for winning competitions like the Champions League or things like that, it could donate that money to charity. But maybe I'm being naive, I don't know. I'd love to know what other people think about that. But I think I covered that point in enough detail, so I want to move on to other things. So yeah, also like Celtic as well. Basically, the 5 causes I often talk about. I love to fundraise for those. So Italian football, Celtic, libertarianism, the promotion of liberty, as freedom as possible for as many people as possible, the greatest number of freedom as possible for the greatest number of people. As part of that, I think it'd be cool if people could choose where their tax money goes, and also I think it'd be cool to have the lowest rate of taxes possible. I know a bit of a controversial idea, especially for a dole fella like me, but I hope to come to that in more detail. And the fourth thing is like to fundraise to support people in developing nations. I think it would be quite just if India became the richest country, because I think that's where it was before, like colonialism. So if it wasn't for colonialism, I suppose India would still be probably the richest country in the world. But again, these are my own personal opinions, so please feel free to disagree. I think it would be cool if countries that are colonized all network together, and hopefully that would benefit them as well. And also tackling war and things like that. It'd be cool if we could, again, having more choices over where our taxes go, hopefully would mean we can choose not to pay for things like wars if we're conscientious objectors or pacifists like myself. Don't know if I could class myself as a conscientious objector or not, but I believe in controversial views like boycotting the Western militaries, like British and American ones, especially as someone who supports republics as well and an anti-imperialist just generally. And number 5 would be tackling poverty, alleviating suffering, and spreading peace, love, and joy, and things like that. And I was thinking about how people say Britain apparently looted, or whatever term you want to use, $45 trillion, I think it is, from India. So I think it would be quite just if India could somehow become a $45 trillion economy, if that is true. I mean, I suppose that's probably debatable. But as ever, I'd love to know what people think about my ideas. I wanted to talk about quite a few things. One of them is like Palestine and the situation in Palestine, which I want to cover in the most neutral and fair and peace-loving way possible, which I normally try and do it anyway. And I think there's a lot of bad and good on both sides of the divide. Obviously, I wouldn't agree with like Hamas or organizations like that either, and I don't think Israel is probably entirely innocent either. So I want to deal with it as neutrally as possible without offending anyone if I can help it. But thinking about the humanitarian crisis, I know it's a bit controversial, but I was thinking like at least the children of Palestine. I think if there is a cease, I think which is I suppose technically today, but it's 7:00 local time, I think, where there's going to be like a temporary truce or a ceasefire in Palestine. I thought it would be, I was going to say cool, but that's probably not the right word, but I mean, it would be pretty good, I think, if especially children from Palestine would be able to migrate. And I think in my opinion, it would only be fair for them to migrate to some countries that had historical links to Palestine or historical historical involvement in the conflict. So I think, for instance, dare I say, Britain, because of the Balfour Declaration, where Britain promised Palestine promised a homeland for Jewish people or whatnot, helped the Zionist state or whatever. I think it would only be fair for some of the children to escape the conflict and be given opportunities. Like, part of me thinks, what if the Palestinians were treated the same way as Ukrainians were when they were invaded by Russia? In fact, I think there's probably even more justification for that with Palestine, because European nations or Western nations in many cases have a lot to do with it. Like, so for instance, some of the funding for Israel, which has been used for weapons, has come from countries like France, Germany, dare I say even Italy and the UK. So I was thinking, I'd love to do it. I forgot to do it on Facebook, but I would love to do like an opinion poll where I ask people, number one, would it be fair for Palestinians to be able to migrate to different countries and be able to be given a route out of the situation, the terrible situation which is happening in their home country, so that they're at least a bit safer, hopefully, or a lot safer, hopefully. And that's one question I want to ask. And the second one is if so, where would be the fairest place for them to be able to migrate to? Who should accept the most, or at least some Palestinian refugees, migrants and refugees? And I think Britain, because of the Balfour Declaration, and also that the fact that they governed Palestine for a while and even had human rights violations themselves in Palestine, apparently. I think Germany, because of obviously they had the atrocities against the Jewish people in the Holocaust. I think to an extent, maybe to a lesser extent, I think maybe France. From a selfish point of view, the ones who are good at football or who can benefit, maybe to Italy. I suppose I'm being a bit selfish with that one, as I can be sometimes. But also, I think America, because they should take in some, because they have helped take Israel's side and like fund Israel a lot. And I think also, again, trying to be as neutral as possible. And I think another country, I can't quite remember. I'd say, to be honest, from a selfish point of view, I'd love the ones who could contribute to Italian football to be able to come to Italy and play football and hopefully benefit the Italian football team in the future. Some, I think, should be able to go to Germany, some to the UK, because Britain invaded Palestine in the past and ran it for a long time, and they have something to do with the conflict and the Balfour Declaration and things like that. America, because they helped arm Israel, even maybe to an extent Germany. Germany, because they expelled the Jewish people as well, and also they are one of the nations who arms Israel, and also France. I'm sure there's a country I forgot. Now I've just remembered. Turkey is another country which I think should take in Palestinians, because they also ran Palestine and they had their own empire as well, the Ottoman Empire. But what I wanted to say is I wanted to ask other people. These are my own personal opinions, so I hope people won't get offended, as naive as those views are. But I hope people will see that in my own personal opinion, I'm really putting the question out there. So if I could do an opinion poll, I would love to do that and then ask and see what countries people think should take in more Palestinian refugees, migrants and refugees. As I say, especially children and people who are not involved in the fight, as in especially children, basically, and under 18s, maybe women as well, but certainly children, I think. So I'd love to know what people think about that. So that's one thing I want to talk about with Palestine. Another thing I'll say, I would love for people to have tax choices, like be able to choose where taxpayers to be able to choose more of where their money goes. I think that's a lot more free. Once again, as ever, please feel free to disagree with me on that. Some of the things, as a fan of Italian football and Celtic, I wanted to share. Like recently Celtic had an AGM, annual general meeting, of course, and talked about the finances and things like, I think, the Celtic PLC. So I shared a few videos on that, and I hope people will check out the Serie A official channels, the Serie A website, and especially YouTube and social media content and all that kind of thing. And also I'd encourage people to check out Celtic FC. But yeah, sorry, I'm jumping from point to point. But yeah, those are the sort of things I would love to fundraise for, and I'd love to hear I'd love to read your comments about. Hopefully, they won't be too harsh about how mad I am, but I'd love to read your comments about like good things to fundraise for. And I've suddenly remembered a point I was going to say about like recently the annual budget in the UK, the Chancellor's budget for the country, reminded me of some of my thoughts. I think the government is trying to crack down on as well as migration, they're trying to crack down on benefits and things like that. And as a dole weller myself, I can see that point, but it is a bit sort of, if you struggle to get jobs or a job, it is a bit difficult. But I've got to admit, me personally, I don't know, I should say this, another one of those things I probably shouldn't say, but I've never really wanted to do a 9 to 5, but I know that sometimes you've got to do what you don't want to do. I know it could be argued, like people could argue, why should we go to work to pay for someone who doesn't try, or who doesn't want to work or whatever. And because I want to give people free choices, I can see where the government's coming from. And but then again, as I say, I think people should be able to choose where their tax money goes. So some people who might want to help disabled people, especially those if they think they can't get jobs. I suppose I mentioned disabled people because they're the most likely to struggle with getting a job and keeping a job, especially in this economy, or even just generally. I suppose that's the reason why I mentioned, and a lot of people talking about disabled people and how they're struggling to get jobs and they're worried about the caps on benefits and things like that. But getting to the point, sorry, one of the things I was thinking of is like, what if disabled people could have a network on YouTube, TikTok, and things like that, and social media generally, so that people with physical, mental, or learning disabilities could like subscribe to each other or support each other's channels and content and things like that, so that we could, if I class myself as disabled, I suppose I'm mentally and physically mentally and learning disabled, not physically disabled, thankfully. But yeah, that could be a way to earn a living from. Sorry if I'm not being very coherent. That's one of the problems with taking a long time to record a video, because like at night time, my brain, which doesn't always work as well as I like anyway, it turns to mush. But there are a few other things I wanted to talk about, but I realise this video has gone on quite long. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, I'm going to quickly say this, is I was thinking of, and I wanted to use this as like a prop or a physical manifestation or demonstration or whatever the word is. I was thinking like, when people have a jar where it could be like a mug or a cup or a jar. For some reason, I think of this one, which has my name on it. I was thinking, like when people have that sort of a jar for when people swear and you have to put a pound in or something like that, and it goes to charity. I was thinking, what if people had, one of my ideas is, what if people had like a cause or a charity, something they raised for money for each month. So it could be a different thing each month. One month it could be for homeless people. Another month it could be for migrants, refugees, or like people fleeing war. Quite apt for like at the moment, like with Palestine, or helping schools, or helping orphanages, helping those who have been orphaned through war, or just general orphanages or whatnot. Helping disabled people or any other vulnerable group or disadvantaged group, as it was the 23rd. I wanted to cover that, to talk about like raising funds. So like if anytime someone swears, maybe they could put £1 in and you raise funds. Or let's say anytime someone talks about politics or something like that, whatever it is that you think they should talk about, or anytime someone mentions Brexit or something like that, they have to put £1 in that jar, and then it gets raised for, or every time someone shouts or loses their temper, it could be, for instance. Or I was thinking like every time someone calls someone to do an errand, like I think like if my mum goes, Michael, at the top of her voice, I think if I tried to tell this to her, but she didn't want to listen to me, but I said like, for each time she calls me, if she asks politely, she should have to put £1 in. And if she asks impolitely, i.e. she doesn't say please, appreciate, and stroke, or thank you, she should have to put £2 in. And it wouldn't go into my own bank or my own pocket, but it could go to a chosen cause like helping the homeless or the Celtic Foundation or whatever. I was thinking from a selfish point of view, it could be like to raise money for a town football. But yeah, I was thinking if so many families did that for chosen causes, and each month there was a different cause that people could agree to or whatever, I was thinking it could be a pretty cool thing. But yeah, I'd love to know what people think about that. A controversial thing I was thinking about as well, sorry, this video's going on quite long, but controversial thought I was thinking of is that I'm not a big fan, as I often say, of the saying like respect your elders. Like I think that makes elderly people or older people who are still able-bodied, I think it makes them lazy. As I say, it makes them lazy, fat hypocrites, but that's my personal opinion. But I should be careful what I say, as I say. But I was thinking, like, people say you should respect your elders, you should respect your parents or whatever. But I think when people get older and they have children or even nieces or nephews or whatever, I think it makes people very lazy, because they sit down a lot and say, bring me this food, bring me this to drink, and things like that. And I think, because I'm not very good at communicating, as you can probably tell, I think I'm getting better at it, but I do struggle and I get wary about offending people, and I can be a bit too soft, as I put it. If people shout and all that, I'm a bit of a chicken. But I was thinking people should tell their parents or whatever, if you can still walk, like every day you should go for a walk. And if you want something to eat or drink, you should go to the kitchen and get it yourself. Even if someone makes it for you, I still think you should do that, because you're getting into the mood of walking. And I think walking is a lot of a mental thing rather than a physical thing. It starts in the mind, and then it's obviously physical as well. But I suppose it's both, but it starts in the mind. So, like, I do a lot of long walks, but when I haven't walked for a long time, if I do those long walks when I go see my dad or whatever, sometimes my ankles hurt and I get a bit tired and things like that. So I think the more you do it, the more you get used to it. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up. I hope that made some sort of sense. And as ever, I'd love to know what you think. It's midnight here, so I'm probably just going to watch some TV for half an hour and hopefully go sleep around 1 o'clock. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and as ever, I'd love to know what you think. And who do you think needs and deserves the most help? And how do you think we could fundraise to help people? How do you think we can have more sympathy and empathy for each other? I'd love to know. So please post such things up in the comments. And peace and love. Good night. I'm out.